Good afternoon. Come on in. Okay. This is the part about job search and careers. My number one message, well, you're going to see it in here, so I'm going to repeat it, is that there are no silver bullets. There's no simple way, no shortcuts to build your career, ranging from getting a job to growing in your career, getting promoted, getting more responsibility. No shortcuts. It all takes hard work. And once you learn it, though, like the courses you're taking here, congratulations to those of you who are learning, it'll stick with you for life. This could be a room full of 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 30-year-olds. It doesn't matter because the principles are the same. Once you get it, you're going to be able to use them forever. So good afternoon. My name is Dana Manciagli. Just Dana will be fine. I know I have an impossible last name. And I'm here today, this afternoon, and hope that you leave with two huge topics that I'm going to teach you today. And that is all about my favorite word, which is choices. We're going to talk about how you gain choices throughout your career, including your early career, and how to build mentors. Or what you'll hear as different words, strategic supporters. We're going to go through all the terminology, so don't worry if you're just saying, what's the difference between all of the above? I always have my website there. I have business cards here to connect with me. My information's on your handout. I'm the author of Cut the Crap, Get a Job. And my next book is Cut the Crap, Network for Success, all about growing your career. And I have free articles also on my website. There's a lot of free resources if you go to danamanciagli.com. So what you're not going to get today, we've already covered. I'll move right on so you're prepared. And please ask questions. I'll pause and see if there are any questions. But most importantly, I'd like you to know why I'm here today, so passionate, because I'm not an engineer, but why am I passionate about this topic and about you? Now, show of hands, how many have seen this maybe 3 or 4 times already? Okay, so I want to get a show of hands now the other way. Who is it your first session with me? Great. So apologies to the other half who already know this, and you could probably recite it better than I can, but it's important because my career is a microcosm of any of your careers. I hope all of you value the fact that there's no one straight path. There's no point in doing a 15-year career plan or 10 years out, what do you want to be when you grow up, because it will most likely change from that. So feel comfortable knowing it is a zig and a zag. And I'll just like mine has been. Now, the only commonality is that I've been raised, if you will, like a child, but now professionally raised in sales and marketing, which are very much sister functions. You can kind of go back and forth. So I haven't wavered from my function, my expertise, but I have moved industries. So even as at BMEs, you can move from industry side to small medical devices firm, but you're always staying in the same, that's one path, that's one commonality. But I zigzagged industry. So out of getting my MBA at Thunderbird, I then went and sold outside sales, what's called carrying the bag, and the old bag filled of stuff, and for IBM for 2 years while going to graduate school. So if you can get any work, any internships, anything on your resume, of course, that's better than nothing at all. But many of you don't have any experience, and that's also okay. Don't beat yourself up. I went from IBM to Avery Dennison, where I was a product manager for 7 years, and even growing up professionally starting as assistant product manager, senior product manager, do you see? Even progressing through the titles in one area with one company. So that's what I did there, young in my career still. And then I was recruited to move industries outside of B2B, business-to-business products, into shipping. So just think how wild things can be. Like everyone said to me, what are you doing working for a company that has boats and containers sitting on them, the big gray containers? It was a blast. So I was director of marketing for all of Asia, living in Hong Kong for 2 years with my family, husband, kids in tote, and then Europe, Rotterdam, another big port of shipping for 5 years total with Sealand. And then I moved to Rochester, New York. That was another overseas assignment for me, coming from LA, and that was a Kodak. I was vice president of worldwide marketing. Big responsibility, big teams, all that. And then I went to tiny. I went from big in Rochester to Seattle for the dot-com boom, basically in '98. Remember when all the dot-com started, and I started one as employee 40, and then took the company as VP of Sales and Marketing, took it public, and grew it to a $60 million company, and we sold it. Then I joined Microsoft. For the last 11 years, I've been a general manager of sales. So all my career has been sales, marketing, taking bigger and bigger responsibilities, but sometimes even hopping out to a little startup and then going back into big. So there's no rules. That's my whole point of doing this, is simply to say, go with it. Go with what's going on with your personal life. Go with what you think is a learning opportunity, and don't be rigid in your plan, no matter what other people say. You'll have all the words shoulds. Watch the shoulds of other people. You should do this, you should do that. Yes, you should be employed. We get that. You should make some money to put a roof on your head and support your life. But outside of that, you should do what you think is right as much as what other people recommend. So I then switched careers. I talk about shoulds. You know, I should have. People could think, hey, Dana, you're on a fast track at Microsoft. Why didn't you stay? Well, because I felt I wanted to give back. My next decades are going to be doing this full time. I left Microsoft. I just quit and wrote my own book, started my business, and here I am. And it's all about changing of life and what we want to do. So my passion now is taking my 30 years of being on the hiring side and now helping you with, when you do this, here's what we see. Or here's how to build your career. Here's how to network. Here's how to build mentors. So I want to take all this great knowledge that I've learned naturally, as you will, and then turn it around and help play the other side. Most of the career advisors out there are great, but they're mostly HR, human resources, or recruiters. And I want to really give you some real life tips from the front line of being an employee, being a job seeker, and growing your career. So here's some shocking statistics. And I don't want you to be one of these. That's why I'm so alarmed at the word should. It's because, unfortunately today, even after everyone gets their job, they're all excited, they're disengaged. There's just a huge percentage of employees today who are just frankly unhappy for a variety of levels. And this number has been growing, unfortunately. And now that since you're early in your career, not yet employed, I want you to know it and not be one of these people. Now, 54.7 they just say they're not engaged. You know, on a scale where it says, are you very engaged, somewhat engaged? You know, then the next tip over is not engaged. The reds are very seriously disengaged. A variety of reasons. They're stuck in their current role. And part of that, why I'm pointing this out, is those people who are most stuck in the red, I'll put money down that they're not working on their career. They are waiting for it to happen to them. And there's too much abdication to their bosses, to their companies. I hear it about Microsoft. They're not promoting me. So catch yourself if you find yourself the victim of, no one's hiring me, I'm putting resumes out there. Or you're working, and hey, why did they get a promotion and I didn't? Well, most likely they're putting more time and energy into their career. So they're stopping working, not the stuff they're doing, but they're putting energy into networking, mentoring. How do they get forward? How do they meet great people? Now, some are just actively disengaged because they have a bad boss relationship. You're all going to bump into. I've had the boss gods have been with me all my years except 1 year. I had a really terrible time with my manager, and I had to get out. You will all face that. You're not going to click wonderfully with all of your managers, and you just need to know, and there's many articles. That's a separate presentation of how to manage your manager, and lots of articles about that. But other than that, I've had a really fantastic career, never felt disengaged, but I don't want you to be either. So I'll note to self is don't become one of those. But how? Okay, Dana, that sounds all great, mom, apple pie. But how you do that is you always have choices. That's what I mean by driving your own career, is you are building choices all the time. You can call it having a plan B. That's one way to look at it. Or simply, and it's not always having a job choice. I don't want you to be in continuous job learning. but your choices will come out of having a network around you at whatever company you go to or wherever you work. And that includes even if you're getting a PhD now or you're still going to stay in school longer, are you building a network around you? So please, if you remember anything today, I want you to know that choices are so important to have, and I'm going to tell you 3 steps how to build choices throughout your career. If I could have you memorize this, of course, for the rest of your career. Step 1, you need to constantly have a career goal. And I do not mean, again, a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal. I mean the next move. So always know, at least have choices, meaning a few options of where do I want to go next. Now, you don't communicate that always to your manager. That's going to, let's say you're 6 weeks into your new job. You don't want to walk into your manager's office and say, hey, can we talk about my next job? You don't want to freak them out. You've got to prove yourself in your current job. But you do need to know it in your head. And I recommend writing it down. Keep a journal, I use OneNote, Evernote, whatever you use, to always have, what do I want to do next? And so let's pretend you're all in your first year of your first job. You still want to start asking and learning and observing others is, who's ahead of me? What's the next thing for me? How can I learn what skills I need to go into that next job? That's what I want you to have, is just the next step, understanding what that is. And you have that in school, right? You have that in freshman year. You knew kind of, okay, I kind of know what it's like to be a sophomore, or I'm going to go ask a sophomore. Same with being a senior. Well, you don't have that in careers. No one gives that to you. You have to go find that when you're with a company. I already warned you on the word shoulds, please. And so one graphic that I always walk around throughout my career is that dartboard. Because choices is about not just having one goal that will trap you into thinking that's the only thing. I want you to think of the dartboard, because the middle, the bullseye, is what you really, really want. If you could pick a chair in your company to go to next, to put your butt in what chair, that is your bullseye, because it's exactly the one you want. Doesn't matter if someone's in it, don't worry, you're not going to tell them that. But the next circle around it is your plan B. And same with today. If you're job searching, what's the perfect job? I hear some of you came up to me yesterday, oh, I didn't hear from that company, and it was the perfect job for me. Well, great, you're going to find more of those. There's more than one job in the bullseye. But hey, what is in your second rung that's going to be perfectly acceptable? It's not option 1, but it's option 2. And you can keep going outside and outside. The most important thing about your career goal is to know what's not on the dartboard at all. I'm really afraid of folks today who are spraying resumes, but also applying to things you have no business applying to. It's not even on the board, let alone in the bullseye. Stop doing that if you're doing that, because I know it's a nervousness or insecurity. What if I don't find what's in circle 1? What if bullseye? What if I don't find in circle 2? And I've received hundreds of resumes. I had my last job I have hired a lot of positions at Microsoft. One was for a business development manager. I was getting research, R&D engineers were applying to my job, which was pure sales. And they've never sold a day in their life. They're spraying resumes out there because it was at their level within Microsoft, it was at their pay range. And I was shocked. Really? You have 0 experience, and they're so qualified to hit so many things in their dartboard. But they're shooting, the dartboard's over here, and they're missing it entirely and shooting a dart over here. Please don't be one of those people, and companies will actually frown on you, like if you apply that way to Google or Apple or Microsoft, the system behind the scene will actually notice that, and you can just be on the blackball list. You don't know it, you don't see it, but the computer has the same algorithms. It says, hey, this person is just RAA, random acts of application, because the person didn't have a goal. It starts here with everything we've talked about yesterday and today. It's ready, aim, fire. And there's too much firing, aiming, ready. It's all random. So get yourself in order and set your goal for your career. Now we're talking longer term career. So even if you're in your first job at your company, start, as you're meeting with people, take them to coffee, whatever, is, hey, tell me where I can go from here. What are the kinds of jobs? And there's going to be many. And start learning about them. Step 2, and these aren't in order, you can do these are 3 choices you have to make choices. Assessing the market requirements for your goal. So they kind of are serial in nature, because if you don't have a goal, how are you going to do step 2? But let's say you're in a job already and you say, you know what, next I want to be that kind of engineer. I want to move to industry versus a private medical devices company. You get to window shop, and so many people don't. As a matter of fact, I showed you the website on bmes.org where you can window shop right now, meaning read job descriptions. It's a spec. It's like a manufacturing spec of a device. It's a spec on what buyers are looking for today. So you don't have to be actively searching, but you learn so much by spending hours and hours and hours reading job descriptions. There's nothing better. I won't send you to the best job boards, even my website isn't better, even is reading job descriptions, and grab a highlighter, even the old-fashioned printing them and highlighting them, or online, but I'd like you to start saving some of them, because you'll see what's in common. My favorite exercise for my clients is I want you to print 10, I know, kill trees in ink, and print 10 that you like and spread them out, and highlight their keywords, and look down on the balcony and off the balcony, and you will see all the key words they're looking for. You'll see the common skills, whether it's analytic, the word analytics will be over and over again, right? And the word this and the word that. Those are the words that you need to bring back into your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, because that's the market. You know, you don't know the market yet. You haven't been in it. So the only way to learn it is draw down the specs, job descriptions of entry level, BMEs, whatever you find. Go to Merck's website, go to your target companies, which I hope some of you have, and sit on their career sites for hours, not to spray resumes yet. You're still in the ready mode, not fire mode. So please look at that as shopping. Like, you don't have any money yet, you don't get to send a resume yet, you need to learn, learn, learn. Then, yes, please. Yeah, that's one way. Okay, so it's not really a question, but here's what he did is you went to a number here at the BMES, you went to people and talked to them about your startup, right? You didn't go to a website. You're having conversations is what I heard. Yeah, this is very different. So you can have conversations with people, but I'd like you to learn first. You know, the best way to extract knowledge from other people is to be more knowledgeable too, so you can get to the right level. Plus, hold on. The quality, I know him already. He wants to engage right now. The quality of that one relies so much on who is that other person. If it's a recruiter at a job fair, they may not always know everything about every job. I'm talking about a whole different level. I'm talking about doing research, which is what you guys do. And you don't engage with people so much yet. You start with more analytics. And I'm sharing that job boards and window shopping is a way to analyze the market at a high level, not securing one person's opinion. That's more of what you're doing, is you're getting feedback from individuals, which is great. And we'll get there next on mentoring. I'm not talking about mentoring yet. I'm really talking about understanding market specs. No different than anything else you do. Looking something up, looking at Wikipedia. The job boards and job descriptions are the best way. Okay? So I'm on a different path than you are, I think. So what you did was great on probing what an individual thinks you should do. I'm a little more macro here. I'm recommending how to build choices when you don't know what your choices could be. You know, how do you pick something if you don't know what the options are? So that's your job. No one's going to deliver that to you. Even the best career counselors at your school, anybody. That's your job to go figure that out. Then step 3 on choices is the plan. Is okay, so great. So I want to get that job, or I want to move to that job in 18 months or a year. What are the gaps? What are the things I'm missing? Folks, you are the most analytical. You can do this. You take those job descriptions of the future job and you piece it out, step it out on a spreadsheet, and then fill in what classes do you need to take, what do you need to learn, who do you need to network with to fill the gaps to get there. That's career planning in super simple terms, but so many people aren't doing it. They're waiting. They're abdicating, waiting for the company to promote them, to guide them to the next job. I've done career plans with my teams. It's a requirement. As a manager, when all of you guys are leading other people, you lead a career planning process. But the onus is on the employee to bring their first draft of their career plan to me. And I'm sorry, but it's pathetic. And I'm talking about 35, 50-year-olds. It doesn't matter what generation. They could have been working 20 years, or in my interns or college hires. And it's like they gave no thought to it. Oh, I want to give more presentations. That's your career plan? Like, they said, well, I thought you would tell me what's best for my career. It's just really sloppy and everything. So don't be that, please. I want you to present your career plan to your manager with confidence. Hey, I've done my research. Here's what I thought. Can you poke holes in it? Can we have a conversation about it? But at least show that you care about your career. So there's a summary of the choices. Any high-level questions? I'm not going super deep on these because I want to get into mentoring. Yes?
So basically, are you saying that we have the problem is that people don't, if people just show their career plans with little enthusiasm?
It's not even enthusiasm. No, his question was, are people showing them without enthusiasm? No, I'm not talking on an emotional level. They haven't done any research, they have they're there. There's no thought, no time. They haven't put an hour in to thinking about their career. They're so busy working. Here's what's going to happen. And you're going to say this to yourself. I'm too busy working and delivering for this company, and I hope that my work speaks for itself. Sound familiar to anybody? Any recent quote that you've read about in the newspaper? Who? Anyone? Hope you guys are reading the news. This is my old company. Anyone read a recent goof? Satya Nadella, does that name ring a bell? CEO of Microsoft, what did he say recently to, you guys need to read your news. Good karma, keep your head down, keep working, karma will take care of you, don't ask for a raise. Big mistake. Big mistake. And I still, my little hairs are raised on my arm just restating it. Okay, so don't get so busy working that you give yourself an excuse not to think about your career. And it's not just enthusiasm. It's really doing the simple steps I just gave you. I just told you how. Step one, okay, I got to have a goal. If I don't know what it is or I need to research more, I'm going to go and look at job descriptions and really research. Aha, that's me. I see myself in that. That's what I want to do next. I'm going to go hunt for that. Only you do it. Never, ever abdicate or trust that if you just keep your head down and do a great job, it will happen. Same with job search. This is why you're spraying resumes, not you all, but many of you are spraying your resume saying, it's great. I was just told my resume is off and I'm going to get hired. It's not enough. It's a shortcut. Okay? Not enough. So, clear choices. I hope that I beat you over the head with that one. So important because it's going to be partnered now with networking. Because I showed a slide yesterday, success doesn't happen alone. And I know a lot of you with your careers and with what you're studying, and I've studied, of course, and talked to so many of you, sometimes it can be very alone, the kind of work that you do. Very PC-centered, right? I can go into the library for 10 hours and get stuff done without talking to a single soul. Now, often you have to partner with 2 or 3 others to get a project done. I get that. That's not mentoring, networking, connecting with people as you need to for your career. Plus, you're going to learn soft skills that you need to be successful. As you saw in the interview yesterday, many hiring managers need you to have both the research, the analytics, the BME, all those, and the people skills. Because you're going to be on their team. And if you're not making eye contact with them, smiling, and showing that you know how to work with other people, no matter how introverted you are, then that's going to bring you down from another candidate who has both. That's the competition. So I hope in the process of you getting out and building a network with total strangers gets you to also practice some interpersonal skills and really get out there and feel comfortable building alliances with total strangers. Okay, let's talk terminology. My key message on all these terms is don't worry about it. I am not going to stand here today and say, on the next slide, I'm going to break down what's the difference, and there are articles on the web, go look them up if you want. What's the difference between a strategic supporter and a mentor? Nothing. All of them are people who want to help you grow your career. So step one is you must trust that all the people around you, now not all, most, the presumption is people want to help you, and they do. So if you go in with the attitude that none of these people, they don't have time, they're too senior, they're a vice president, I'm just a lowly first year, how are they ever going to talk to me? If you go in with all that little devil speak, all that negative speak, you're right, they won't help you. Because A, you're not even asking, and B, you're going to be ineffective when you do ask, because you're just not trusting. So I want you to know that everyone at any level, senior, no matter what culture, no matter anything, they really want to help you. It's your role to ask. That's step one. And don't worry about the terminology of who's who. How many of you have experience working for a company in a full-time job, not just an internship? Good, some of you. Did those of you who were you part of a mentor program? Did you have a mentor? Anybody? Yes. Can you tell a little bit about it? Did they hook you up with someone?
Yeah, I had someone that we did graduate a few years beforehand. Basically, it taught me the program that I needed to use and walked me through the steps and so on, so able to do it on that.
Great. So that mentor that they hooked you up with was a couple years or a year ahead of you, and were they mostly showing you work-related things, programs? Oh, good. And you could ask things like culture, or how do I do this? Could you ask just about anything to this person? Great. Awesome. Anyone else have a mentor before? Or someone that the company said, here's who you can ask anything to? Yeah. Did you have one? No? No? Okay. All of you will. And by the way, but they're not all. It sounds like in your company, they gave you one. They match made with you? Or did you have to go find that person? He's across the aisle. But did you build that yourself, that relationship, or did they say, hey, here's your buddy system kind of program? Mutual, okay. Many of you will have, your companies, when you enter and you want to research that, has a mentor program, but you have to sign up for it. They don't just walk down and say, here, most companies don't match make, but they offer a program where you can sign up either through the PC, but they also encourage you to simply look for your own mentors. I didn't bring any articles with me, but there are articles about being a great mentee. And the number one myth about mentors is that you're the mentee, and the mentor is usually a little more senior. Your myth is that they do all the work, that they should call the meeting, they're going to come and take you to lunch. No, that is totally twisted. The mentor-mentee relationship is all you. No different than managing your career. If you hook up with the guy across the cube or down the hall, you ask someone, will you be my mentor? You own that. From that point on, if they say yes, don't expect them to go back to their office and send you the meeting invite and to say, let's go to lunch. What would you like to talk about tomorrow? You do that. They're giving you access, but you've got to drive the bus on that. So be very clear that mentor-mentee is all you as the mentee, and they're being gracious with their time, but don't expect them to keep the momentum going. Okay, now back to mentor-mentee, the old-fashioned, which still exists today and is very important, but prior mentoring, up until recently, is on the left, basic mentoring. It's a one-on-one relationship, and you typically meet every quarter. Sometimes it might even be as every month. They're not your boss. typically. You don't want your boss as your mentor. You want him to be your manager. And then you have another person or two who might be your mentors. These are very powerful, and you need some of those, but you need more than one. So the advanced mentoring, which you can start, when I say advanced, I don't mean you have to wait till 10 years into your career. Advanced mentoring is right when you enter, is think broadly. Think about multiple people I want to be on my team. Kind of a board of directors, and I've heard some people say that. Hey, Deanna, will you be on my personal board of directors? Kind of cute. It's the same concept, though, as will you be available when I need some support, some guidance? If I set up well in advance, can I ask for your advice? Not pick your brain, as we covered yesterday. Don't go informal on them. So it could be anyone. It could be your current manager. It really depends on your relationship with them, but I prefer the other ones. It might be a peer. It could be someone doing your job in another company. It could be all of your ex-peers at school. So through your alumni organization or before you graduate, I want you to think right now is how am I going to maintain contacts with my peers today who are going to go to all these cool different companies. And I lost so many college peers because I just didn't keep track. We didn't have LinkedIn way back then in the prehistoric era, and now you do. I mean, you should, and you'll have alumni associations on LinkedIn. Be sure you're adding them to say, hey, can I call you once in a while, dude, and just ask you a few questions, okay? Your customers, sometimes people have as mentors. Industry contacts, I hope all of you join industry groups. Even, of course, BMES should be your place to have great mentors and relationships, not just when you come here once a year or twice a year, but online and through the Career Connection. So think now, early, about how you're going to build a board of directors for you. And it can be anybody. Okay? They don't have to be an engineer, and you shouldn't have just people like you. Look for diversity. You know, women should not just have women mentors. Engineers should not just have engineer mentors. You should get someone in sales. You know, if you're working for Merck, then go find someone who's carrying the bag, who's selling Merck pharmaceuticals. You know, hey, will you be my mentor on some things that I can bounce off of you? Think very broadly about your mentorship. Now, I'm asked all the time, Deanna, why do I need so many? You know, I'm going to be busy working and have the family, soon you have the kids and the dogs and all that. But you need many, and I learned the hard way. So I want to share my mistakes. But I had mentors my first, well, even at Microsoft. I was older when I joined Microsoft. I was 41. And I built all these great mentors because I was new, and it was cool, and it was fun. And then 6 years later, woke up literally, I mean, it didn't happen on that day, but I needed some help. I was transitioning jobs. All my prior mentors, I mean, I knew it gradually, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. They were gone. They left Microsoft. They retired. They're in a different division. I just had when I listed out who's my network, who are my mentors, my strategic supporters, whatever I called them, they weren't there anymore. And I hadn't been focused on nurturing new ones. And that's why if you start with advanced mentoring, people are going to come and go and change, and they'll disappear on you, so you kind of let them go and you start new ones. Your career goals also will change. You know, in 5 years from now, you're going to have a totally different set of goals and needs. Your mentors may need to change. They no longer suit you, and that's okay. You're not firing them, you're not unfriending them. You're just moving on and adding new ones to your support team, to your board of directors. Why do you think board of directors change at companies? Because they change their vision and their model, and they need new, fresh board members. Same concept. I already talked about that diversity. That's why you want to change your board also, or add to it, because you'll find, uh-oh, I'm only asking people who are like me for advice. I need people who know nothing about engineering. They can look at me very objectively and give me great feedback. And many of you are going to work for, how many of you want to work for large companies? A little bit. So the rest of you either don't know, how about small companies, super small startups? So a lot of you want to go small, and then a whole bunch of you may not. What else is left? Yep, and you want small. Some of you just don't know, or you don't care? Is that kind of, either one? Don't know. And what'd you say? Academia. Okay, but even in large academia versus a very, very small school, they're very much microcosms too. So your institution, I should say, instead of company, is huge. So why limit yourself to saying, oh, good, I have one mentor? And you know, it puts too much pressure to just rely on one person to give you great advice. Another problem with mentoring, and this will sound familiar for those of you from yesterday, but you do not wait until you need something. Then you have no relationship built with this person. They don't know who you are, what your strengths are. So you build a mentorship around just a goal of learning, learning, learning. Then when you need something, they're there for you and super helpful. So why not just build a mentor based on your job searching? So you're going to go out and look for network contacts right now. Well, they don't respond as well. You're going to get more no's. Like if you ask for a meeting of 15 minutes of their time or 30 minutes in their office, you're going to get a few more saying, I don't have time, because they don't know you. Way better odds if you've already been talking to them. You're also not as effective. When we need something, we're the mentee or the networkee. Actually, you're the networker in this case, and the mentee, they're the mentor. We're not as effective when we're really kind of desperate. You know, we kind of need information from them. And often even here, some people will walk up to me and launch right into what your question is. Say, whoa, stop for a minute, introduce yourself, shake hands, and then launch into what you need. So that's a great analog to mentoring. You're not effective when you just bowl up to someone and say, can you answer this, can you answer that? We stop and build a little bit of a relationship. Smile, shake hands. Okay, and take a breath, and then ask for what you need. So we're not as effective when we're in the needy stage. And then finally, it's just really ugly networking and mentoring when you're just one way. And you're in, you're out, and you actually disappear. And it shows. I mean, I just know when some people are meeting with me, they say, bye, thank you. And I'll say, oh, please be in touch. Please let me know how it goes. Oh, yeah, I will. Never hear from them again. And that's 9 out of 10 cases, by the way. The state of, this is mentoring too, the state of mentoring is awful because the person needing something uses them and disappears. And that's not mentoring. It's not building strategic supporters. You've got to spend time either and asking them, is there something I can do to help you? Is there an additional project at work, at Merck, that I can do for you? In my, outside of my day job, you've got to focus on the two-way and the long term, or you're going to be using folks, and they'll remember. And once you do that, you can't come back and say, oh, yeah, I need something again. Can you help me? And I know most people will probably say, sure, Dan, I'll help you. No, I say, okay, first we're going to talk about last time. And I bust them. I bust their chops a little bit. I say, I'm sorry, the last time you came to me for help, you needed it in the moment, I helped you, and what did I ask for? I don't remember. I asked you to stay in touch with me and tell me how your meeting went, tell me how your interview went, and I haven't heard anything from you. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now you're back to me again. I mean, I will have this conversation because it's frustrating. I mean, it really feels, you feel used on the other side of the table. Now I'm being, the other person. And I want you to know how that feels and how would you feel if you kept being tapped that way. So I want you to guys leave here saying, I'm going to be a way better person on that and follow up with people and be, it's awkward, I know. I think the number one reason why people don't do it is for dumb excuses like, well, Dan, I thought you were too busy. Or why do you want to hear from little old me about this and that? Why? Because I invested in you. I cared about you enough to give you the time, and I learned from how was my advice. How did it go for you? Or it didn't go so well. So don't make up all these stories about why you shouldn't proactively, right now, even when you leave here, fire off some notes to even some professors. Hey, I just attended BMES, and I want to tell you about the few things I learned. Can't wait to get back into next semester. Just shoot out notes. Let them know you're alive and well and you consider them part of your team. Or ask them a question. Do you have any advice? So engage. Please engage. Okay, my little clicker decided to disengage. One of those disengaged employees. Maybe it's a bad boss. This is a little repeat. Yes?
I'm just providing an example
Okay, well, if you're asking me for my opinion on that, would any one of us make any commitment to do anything, you must follow through on that. That's not an option. So I'm going to give you a third, and probably an answer you don't want to hear is if you have a commitment, a trade-off to be at BME, or if a boss asks you, a manager says, can you have this to me by 3, it's not an option at 2:55 to say to them, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have it to you at 3. You should have told them that a lot earlier because people count on you. So that's just more of commitment. That's commitments overall in both personal life but also professional life. So if you do that over and over in companies, they will start, you will lose credibility that they can't count on you. So I'm going to get back on track here, but I mean, I'm glad you told them. It's way better than not showing up. But actually, either of the two, the best is to follow through on the commitment and try to find the information from what you missed. Okay? So let's get back to what's really important about how do I build a network, Dana? How do I build these strategic supporters? Who do I ask to be in my support system at Merck, at my companies, at my institutions and education? And typically, we only look for mentors in our organization. So I apologize for those of you where it's a repeat. Bear with me. You may learn something new anyway. And typically, we look for mentors in our org. All of you, whether you're at an educational institute, academia, or a company, or a small company, we look in our hierarchy. And many times you ask your boss's boss to be your mentor, or your boss's peer, or even a peer. And that's fine. You want some of those, but you really work in a virtual world. Especially the big companies, even large mediums, are so matrixed where you report to people, but you're on a virtual team. You're the virtual team engineer on a team that's making something. And you don't all report to the same people. So you look more like what's on the right. So I want you to put yourself in the middle when you're working, day 1, year 1, and even ask your manager to help you fill out the diagram on the right. Tell me who's important to me and my career, meaning us, manager and I, and my success at Merck, fill in the blank, wherever you are. And they're going to draw this for you, the spider of who's who in the zoo that you wouldn't have even thought of. Maybe it's a human resources person. Maybe it's a salesperson who's selling your device. So be sure you learn who are the people who are in my network on the right, not just give me a copy of the org chart. That's not the best source of mentors. Remember, back to diversity. You want to get diverse mentors and your board of directors around your virtual team. Now, on the right, what's fun about it also is it changes. Because let's say the next year you get a new job, you're an engineer in a whole different group, new product line, you draw a whole new virtual team on the right. And you've got all kinds of new people to meet, to go lunch with, have coffee, and be sure you're building your board of directors even more. So you continuously get the opportunity to not only build your board of directors, but you want to offer your help as a new employee. Let's say you're 6 months new, a year new, you want to be a mentor. You will learn so much. So be the guy next to our friend here who was in the cubicle across the hall who offered you support. Now, when the next new woman or man comes up, year 1, you can see they just look like the fear of God is in their eyes. Grab them and say, can I help you out? I'm happy to be your mentor. You can ask me anything. I'll show you anything. And you'll learn so much and you'll build some leadership skills too. So you're never too young to be a mentor. Yes, so the question I'll repeat for everybody is, I've been talking about having mentors that are higher level. Is it okay to have lower is what your question is. I would go to peers. I mean, typically, well, first, most of you are going to be some of the most entry-level positions in the group you're working with. So until you have subordinates, until you have people reporting to you, I really recommend peer level and above. So I think I've been, on the prior slides, peers was one of the circles on the advanced mentoring. Yeah, so peers can be mentors. Don't look at them as competition or 1 step above, 2 above. Again, I said aim high as well. And the reason is the more senior they are, the more experience they have to give you advice. So I'm not, now, you can ask anybody anything. Don't get me wrong. If there's someone, you should prize like the administrative assistants, our goddesses and gods, whoever they are, for a different set of needs that you have and advice. Where's the mail room? I mean, I was lost around Microsoft. I was like, and that person was like my mentor for different things. So I didn't care about levels so much, but you probably don't need lower level to get your career going. You need to look forward and up. Great question. So that leads to, okay, who should I look for, and how do I think about building these mentors? And definitely, people are afraid to ask high, and I just want to reinforce that again, is what's the worst they're going to say if you ask a director of engineering, 3 levels higher than you? Hey, I'm new here, I have certain career objectives in mind, I'd like someone to bounce them off of. Is that something that can you lend me 30 minutes once a quarter to provide me some guidance? What's the absolute, if you bombed all that or felt it just went south, what does that look like? What are they going to say? No. Okay, thank you. You walk away. That's as bad as it gets. And they're not going to say no rudely. They're not going to say no because you're just an awful person and you asked me in the wrong way. They would say very politely, I'm sorry, I wish I could. I don't have time. I have 6 other mentors I'm helping. How about this person? So go in there saying, what is the worst that's going to happen of me asking, hey, will you be my mentor? Because you have a goal, right? You have your career goal. You have something you want to learn about. You can tell them, here's what I want to learn about, and will you meet with me? And the best way to sell someone on being your mentor is telling them, and by the way, I'll take responsibility for running everything. I'll bring the agenda. You, the mentee, they're the mentor. I'll bring the agenda. I'll set up the meeting. You're basically going to deliver this on a silver platter. And that's why they say no usually, because the other person doesn't do anything. They come into the office and they just say, oh, thanks, or they ask a big question that is just world hunger. What's the future of Merck? Come on, that's not mentoring. You want to ask questions where you can engage and build a relationship about you and your career, or ask them about their career. How did you get so far at such a young age? You have a great background. I went on LinkedIn. I saw that you got this degree and that. Your career zigged and zagged. What top 2 pieces of advice do you have for me? You might want to write that down. I love when you're mentoring and stuff, ask them, what are 2 things? What are 2 attributes that make people successful here? What are 2, and that just narrows it down. You're not asking them to spend hours with you on their philosophy of life or their management style, something really big, okay? Don't be hesitant to titles, borders. Many of your companies are going to be global, or you from where you were raised. Have people who are in India. When I was a mentor at Microsoft, I had one woman in India, a man in Brazil, a woman in Germany, and they were just all over, and we just over web had our brief conversation, 30 minutes to an hour, and connected, and we really enjoyed it. So you don't have to think they have to be sitting across the hall from you either. Be proud, be confident and proud when you're engaging with them. They're there to help you. Don't feel embarrassed, and I've got this question, and gee, I'm kind of looking for a job, or I don't know what I want to do next. That's okay. Ask them, hey, here's my background. What are 3 different choices of jobs that I should be considering over the next few years? What should I be looking forward to? And the last one, again, I just have to keep beating that in, is please don't go meekly and humbly up to someone thinking that you're burdening them, that they really don't want to help anyone, you're begging, none of that. Just know they do want to help you. It's a matter of matchmaking and if it's convenient when you ask them. Got to get over those trust factors. Okay, how do I do it? So I've got the person now. I've built that image on the right, that scattergram of spider webs of coal in the middle, and so how do you do it? I want you to be formal when asking people to be your mentor. Right? This isn't something where you drive by someone's office and say, hey, do you mind being my mentor? And they're in the middle of something. So I recommend sending a great email. And I'm going to give you a copy of it, too. It'll be in the PowerPoint. That's on bmes.org. And and it's not in your handouts either. So I want you to do an email intro, request to meet. And I want you to follow up, no different than in job search now. You're going to follow up 3 times after you sent that. Do not tell yourself, I'm being a pest. You're being persistent. A clever line for number 2 is, hey, I'm just bringing this back up to the top of your inbox, because you know their inbox is flooded, and they probably put a little red flag next to it like I do, and then a flag disappears down into the bowels of the email. So you're just bringing it to the top of the inbox. Then, once you secure a meeting, which you may, before even 3, I want you to host that meeting and go in with an agenda. And I mean the old-fashioned print an agenda. It only has to have 3 lines. It's not like you have to do a whole number on it. But just show that you thought through and you prepared for that meeting. You're going to be way on time, right? How many minutes are you going to be ready before that meeting? 30. If you're not 30 minutes ready for it in their lobby or in the car, ready for it, you're late. You never book a networking meeting back to back with another meeting, because then you run and you're out of breath and you forgot something. Never. I always put travel time, 30 minutes before and 30 after any important career meeting, actually any meeting if possible, if you can. But certainly if you set up a network meeting with a VP, a director, with anybody, even a peer, you better respect their time and be there on time. You're going to host a great meeting with an agenda that has how many items on the agenda? I just cheated and showed you. 3, law of 3s. All you need are 3 agenda items. This isn't like you have to think through every 5 minutes and how it's going to go. What's the first agenda item always going to be in your first meeting with anybody? Introductions. Okay, and you're going to say, I have an agenda here. I propose we first introduce ourselves, and then bump, and then bump. Now, in the intros, who introduces first? They do. You want them to introduce. You want them to start talking first. You don't want to say, oh, let me introduce me first, and then you second. You always want to defer, because this meeting isn't about you only. It's about the 2-way relationship. So how can you build a 2-way relationship if you don't know anything about them, other than maybe you went to their LinkedIn profile? So have them introduce themselves first. Say, thank you so much. Now I'll share a little about me. And you can do the tell me about yourself. Some of you learned that yesterday. Just do a high-level introduction. Thank you so much. Now that we've met, agenda item 2. And have your goal. That's the meat of your meeting. Have your purpose of there. Create something before you walk in if you don't know. But you need to have a specific question to do great mentoring. Because they're not going to drive the meeting. They're not going to say, oh, well, if you don't know what to talk about, how about if we talk about this? Or what's the latest movie you saw? No, you want to structure that meeting with a great agenda. And then at the end of the meeting, you go for the close, no different than at the end of an interview. You're going to ask for the job or ask for the next interview. You're going to ask for the next meeting. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. This was so valuable to me. May I please set up the next meeting for 30 minutes in 3 months from now? Sure. I'm sure they enjoyed it. And what's 30 minutes? And you're the stroker. You're the one in negotiations. That's the person doing most of the driving of the negotiations. You own the process. And they will really appreciate that and remember you for it. So you get to show them some of your skills in leading a meeting and in driving an agenda. Okay, test. This is your work now. Do shout outs. What do you like about it first? Anything you like?
I love the Biomedical. It's very
Formal? Good. What else do you guys see you like? So you're recommending they could have said more in paragraph 1 in the first sentence? No? You like that? Okay. A little compliment, okay, or at least what they did is they made it more personal. Even though I never met them, they might have been in the audience, but they brought some relevance to how they even know me. And even if it was, I saw your profile on LinkedIn, frankly. So it's just a nice way to say, how did I find you? As you can start with something like that. What else do you guys see? Please. The goal, yes. So we as mentors, I will press enter so much, type yes back when someone shares what they want to meet on. Sometimes I have to write back, say, what would you like me to, what advice are you seeking? And see if they even have a thought. But the fact that you put it in your introductory email, thank God, there's a person who has a purpose, a goal. No different than a job goal, a networking goal. This is mentoring. You have a need, and I can fill that, and I get excited about doing that. Versus someone who says, can we meet? And I'm braced in the table, like, what are they going to come in asking me about? Is it going to be, where was I born, and how did I get where I am today when they're 22 and I'm 52? It's just not, there's no relevancy there. So I'd rather something like this. Great catch on that. It was quite specific without saying, and it says 3 questions. You don't have to give the questions, but you're going to bring them in with you of what specifically do you want to learn about program management field. Yes? Yeah. Oh, great question. Yeah, I should have put subject lines. Requesting a meeting with you. So something very specific, like requesting a meeting. Can you help me? Question mark, perhaps. Yeah, good. I'd like everyone to think about their subject lines. And don't leave them empty. And don't just say hello or FYI or anything like that. I like this, anyone notice the close, the call for action. They're going for the close. And they're not saying, will you meet with me? It's a presumptive close, but look how gentle it is. It's saying, do you prefer I send that invite, which I hope all of you know how to do in your Outlook or Google. Send a nice meeting invitation with the body filled in, because you're going to have to do that within companies. It's not just via email. How about next Tuesday at 3? No, you send, if Ms. Jones says yes, you need to send them the meeting invitation. Don't wait for them to send it to you. You own every step of the booking process. So I like that. It's a presumptive close. It's like what I did with my kids is, okay, do you want to go to Mexican or Italian? Like, we're going out to dinner. You don't get to choose, anything. And what is your choice? So it limits the scope of how they can respond. Full closure, full signature block. For those of you who didn't learn yesterday, always your formal first name, last name, phone number, email. You can do your LinkedIn profile, but always have a nice business close, even internally in companies. Yes? I'm sorry, what do you see? Tell me again. Well, first they already asked. I mean, I still feel comfortable if I got this saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't. It's not that, it's called a presumptive close, you're right, but I don't feel cornered. I think it's someone who's ambitious and someone who really wants to move to the next step. But they did ask for permission. May I ask for 30 minutes of your time to introduce myself and ask 3 questions about that? So already there I can say yes or no. And then they're kind of just closing it. And it's very much like sales is, I'd like to come in and contact you, or I've made this call on you, we've talked for an hour, would you like to buy these pencils? And shame on me if I don't ask. Yeah, I find all those, I think this is better, and that's why I gave it to you guys to use. Please let me know. I think you're going to get a non-response many times. I think this just prompts a response more. I'm just human nature. People feel guilty. They feel like they want to respond. You can try. What is your answer, please? Can you please? But at least something like, will you please respond? Whether you can help me. That would be another way to end without the 2 options. But at least try to ask them to respond to you. Some call to action. Always need that. What's the next thing? Not, hey, contact me if you can. It's too casual. Anything else on this? Any question? You're going to get this, and you can copy it and use it however you like. Yes? good. Okay, so I'll repeat for everybody if you didn't hear. An option for the last line is, if you can, would you prefer that I send a meeting request to you or to contact your admin, your administrative assistant? Yeah, that's a good touch too. Great. So you need to be professional is my message, formal. Ask them, be bold, of course, and the middle part's most important. If there's nothing there, delete. We just don't have time, and you won't hear back. Many of you were taught this yesterday. I can't beat it into your brains enough, because at all ages, this is not a millennial thing or anything like that. It's actually horrendous out there, the language that is used for business conduct. And it's appropriate, totally appropriate for everything social. You should see my tweets and my Facebook and how I'm talking with my friends. It is inappropriate for networking, anything related to your career. Whenever you have career hat, whether it's job search, mentoring, you err on the formal side. Now, when you're within a company, I'm not saying you put on formal attire to have a network meeting. Don't get a formal confused with what you wear. I'm talking about language, style. It's just way too casual, which says to us, mentors and more senior folks, it must not be that important to you. If you're doing drive-bys, my office, and I mean, I have people drive by and they have tears in their eyes because they just lost their job, or they have a bad situation with their manager. They say, do you have a second? I got to talk about my career. Really? Like, you're in crisis mode and you're driving by, and I'm literally on the phone with people like sitting there. And no, stop for a minute and send me an email and then see if I have time real quickly to meet with you behind closed doors. So think about the other person before just busting in. Question was over here somewhere. Yes? Okay, I'll do a little, and all your questions, I know we don't have a mic out there, but if you can raise your voices, that'd be great. But I'll be sure to repeat it, is if they're informal, you're formal, and they're informal, should you follow them? Not all the way. So if they correct you once, you're saying, Mr. Smith, he says, call me Bob. He can be a Bob from then on in. But even if he's still informal, it actually gets people tripped up. And I trip them up in interviews, I know, not intentionally, because I'm like, hey, that's great, okay, tell me about this, tell me about that. And they start to loosen up, and oh, it's amazing what comes out of their mouth. Not good. So you don't want to let your guard down, especially if they're more senior, because you're still performing. They're watching, wow, this is someone I can see taking that job maybe in a year from now. You're still setting a first impression, even over an hour-long meeting or your second meeting. So no, I always recommend, and I always have, take notes, go in, be sure at least I'm prepared, 30 minutes early, at least dressed a little nicer, don't go in flip-flops and shorts. No, I don't ever let my guard down. When they're more senior, I want to be my best all the way through my career. Great question. Okay, these are not only common mistakes with job search, but they're huge mistakes with networking and mentoring, building your strategic supporters. When they're more senior, it's the same off this gentleman's great question, is please don't come without a purpose. Don't be sloppy, disheveled. Don't say, oh, thank you for your time today. I don't really have anything to talk about. I was like, oh, I just have 30 minutes of my time just chunked out for you, and you came and you just don't have anything to talk about. That's like a no-show. So please respect them, and you'll get so much back from them. And remember to close every meeting. This is a little sidebar. It's not on the slide. Close every meeting with, of course, gushing with thank yous and graciousness, but also, is there anything I can do to help you? Even on LinkedIn, if you're communicating with someone, type it in there. It'll make such an impact. Thank you so much for connecting with me. Hey, if there's anything I can do for you anytime, let me know. But also in your relationships through your career. Because you never know. They say, you know what, I do have a special project. Or I'm doing a fundraising this Saturday. Can you come and hand out cups at this 5K? Maybe they need your help. But that's the way to build your two-way, long-term relationships. And this is back to your great question on, why in every meeting, you want to make that great first impression over and over and over again, because you really don't get a second chance. You know, if it just takes one time for someone to arrive 15 minutes late, the dog ate my homework, or, you know, and to say, okay, well, I'll give someone another chance, by the way, of course. I hope you all will. But then what if it happens again and again? And that's called reputation. That's called the perception. We're all creating perceptions about each other from first impressions. So please watch your first impression. And I always invite all of you. We're going to open up for questions as long as you want. I'll stay. Always invite you. Here's my business card. Cut the crap, get a job. All about mentoring and networking too in that. But I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you on a Friday afternoon. You've been great. Thank you.